What they don't tell you about your 20s is that this decade isn't actually a test that you can pass or fail. I think the whole dichotomy of either like succeeding at your 20s versus wasting your 20s is actually just an illusion. This is a time where you get to experiment to your heart's desire with all the things that you might be interested in. If you're new here, I'm Izzy, I'm a mum, tech co-founder and Cambridge trained doctor, and for many years I let my life run on autopilot following a set of rules and expectations. I'm in the last year of my 20s now, so in this video I'm just going to talk about some of the things that I've learned over the last decade and that I wish I could tell my younger self and give her a sneak preview of everything that was to come. Things like how to question the beliefs that you've just taken on without even noticing, or why running tiny micro experiments beats following a template every single time, and even things like how to navigate aging and maturing as a woman. This video is a bit of a chatty one, a bit different to usual, and so I thought I'd just record a bit of an intro before we actually dive into it. So get comfy and grab a drink and let's get started. One trap that I fell into was at the end of school, I thought, oh, okay, I should just like work hard to get a bunch of A stars, get into a good university, study medicine, then I'll be a doctor and then specialize into something, do various exams along the way, pass them, compete with everybody else, get to the top, be a consultant, and then do that until I die. So that was the path that I was on. That was like the default path. But at some point I realized I kind of had this moment where I was like, oh, did I actually choose this? Or is this something that was a template that I assigned to myself? There's no real reason why I need to work within the bounds of this template. This template is just a suggestion. The structure is totally socially constructed. I can go off and do something else for a little while. And as soon as I had that realization, I saw colleagues around me who were doing exactly that. And fundamentally, I don't think anybody is trying to create these like socially constructed tick boxes to trap us or to harm us in any way. They're probably just trying to help us by creating a structure in which lots of people can work together effectively. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's actually the recipe for fulfillment and happiness and adventure in your own life. And it was almost like that effect where as soon as you're thinking about something or more aware of it, you start noticing it everywhere. Kind of like if you buy, let's say, like a red Toyota, then you start noticing that same brand and make of red Toyota everywhere that you go. Not because there are suddenly more, but because actually your brain is actually attuned to noticing them and picking them up. And in the same way, I suddenly noticed like, oh, there's actually a lot of my medical colleagues that are actually going off and doing something else for a little bit and maybe coming back, stepping away, having a portfolio career. They were definitely a minority, but they were really clearly there. And I was like, oh, you know what? Actually, this is possible. I genuinely think one of the most valuable things that I did in my 20s was constantly work on upgrading and changing my perspective. There were a couple of things that really helped with this. So one thing was reading lots of books, essentially absorbing the perspectives and mindsets of people who have had such vastly different lives, achieved incredible things, or just had totally different life paths. I actually made a whole video on some of my favorite books, so you can check that out somewhere over here. Another thing that changed the way that I perceive the world is actually something that sounds a bit woo-woo, but it's meditation. Meditation and yoga actually gives you a different lens through which to view the world because you learn how to change the state and the operating system of how your brain is thinking. There's lots of different styles of meditation. I've tried a whole bunch throughout the years and had different benefits from different types. If you're interested to try out meditation, I've actually created a completely free starter pack about meditation, including a guided meditation that I recorded just for you guys. So if you'd like to check that out totally for free, I'll leave a link down below in the description. One thing I find so interesting is how we get really used to the perspectives that are around us. It's sort of like the waters that we grow up in, the air that we breathe. We don't even notice the air that we're in, really. Oh, there's like particles all around me because we're so used to it until we're actually asked to see it through a different lens, through a microscope, through like the lens of a scientist. And so a lot of these beliefs that we have and assumptions and constructs actually come from childhood, and they're there to help us because like we learn things like, oh, you should save money, and maybe that becomes a belief that we have, like, oh, saving money is a good thing. This is something actually I noticed in myself, where my money mindset is something I inherited from my parents, and it has served them so well, and it has protected me and was exactly what I needed at the time. But actually, my life has changed. My parents both came from very humble backgrounds, and so it made sense for their context. And then I remember while I was a student at uni, I would literally budget my meals to try to target my dinners to cost no more than 30p per meal. And so I'd buy like pasta and like count the cost of everything to try to make everything as affordable and cheap as possible to save as much money as I could. But something I realized, again through reading books and also talking to people who had a different perspective, is that that's not the only perspective that is safe or reasonable reasonable. Reading books like The Psychology of Money, The Art of Spending Money, Die with Zero, Your Money or Your Life, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, these kinds of books really upgraded my money mindset from the beliefs that I had grown up with, the beliefs that were the air and the water that I was breathing and swimming in. And so I think there's the level of societal beliefs and social constructs, and there's also like things that we learn in childhood, things that we learn from our family, things that we learn from our friends and the people close to us. And in a lot of cases, those beliefs might still be serving you, but I think it's always worth asking the question of, is this belief serving me right now, or was it only serving a previous version of me? And actually, could this use a little update? In your 20s, you have so much life left ahead of you. A few degrees change in your trajectory, in what you think is possible, your beliefs about who you are, what you're becoming, makes a big difference and compounds massively over time. I've kind of changed and layered on different identities, different versions of me throughout my 20s. I started out as the medical student and then doctor, and then I added in like YouTuber and then like yoga teacher training person, and then I added in like, oh, entrepreneur, and then like CEO, and then mum and wife, and all of these different identities. They kind of ran in parallel. An analogy I like is almost a bit like a rope. A single thread doesn't span from the start of a rope all the way to the end, but all those threads, they kind of interlock, and new threads start along the way, and then old threads sort of end, but it's one continuous rope. And I kind of like seeing my life and different chapters in it in this way. And so basically like running small experiments of like, oh, let's say during COVID, I tried doing guitar. I was taking this online free video course by a guy called Justin Guitar. You might have seen his videos. Probably not actually. Unless you've tried to learn guitar. If you've tried to learn guitar, you've definitely seen his videos. Anyway, trying to basically like do this myself at home. I was pretty bad at it. And so that was a very short-lived experiment where I was like, okay, I'll try running this experiment for maybe a couple of weeks. I'll show up for my guitar practice. I had blisters on my fingers. They were bleeding. It was painful. I had to trim my nails really, really short, which I wasn't used to. And I was like, you know what? Maybe this isn't for me. I'm going to let this one go. But then equally during COVID lockdown, I also started this very YouTube channel, and that was also a mini experiment that I was running of like, oh, what's it like if I just start a YouTube channel and start doing the YouTuber thing? And so I did, and I'm still doing that here today, like 5 years later. And so you might have seen this framework, which basically suggests that you can have 2 of 3 things at different eras of life. You can either have time, money, or health, and you can have 2 of these things at each era in your life. When you're young, you have time and health. When you're in your like mid-career, you have money and health but no time. And when you're old, you have money and time but you don't have as much health. In my 20s, I definitely had time and health but very minimal money. And so then I had that freedom to be like, you know what, I'm just going to run random experiments. I don't have many responsibilities right now. I don't have a kid, which I do now. I don't need to worry about all of these other things like, oh, running the business or like figuring out the situation for the baby's play groups and her vaccinations and all this kind of thing. Instead, actually, I could just focus on, oh, what fun project, what fun experiment do I want to try this week? And it can be different next week. And so throughout my 20s, I realized I've had multiple things that I'm doing, multiple identities that are running in parallel. And speaking of running 2 identities in parallel, at some point, one of mine started asking to become a real business, because the version of me making slightly embarrassing YouTube videos, making a fool of myself online at 24, had genuinely no idea what it actually would take to turn creative work, making YouTube videos, into something that actually pays for itself and is financially at least self-sufficient. And one thing I wish I'd understood sooner is that the creators whose work compounds aren't necessarily the ones working the hardest. They're usually the ones who set up an intentional system and let it run. And that's why I want to talk about Stan Store, who are very kindly sponsoring today's video. Stan is an all-in-one storefront where you can create and sell digital products, sell coaching, put your social media links, and basically allows you to connect your social media, your creative stuff, to an actual place where you can build a business and actually make money. And the creators that have scaled their businesses and are making the most money on Stan actually make use of 2 specific features, and these are funnels and order bumps. And actually Stan have recently upgraded the features here, and so let me walk you through a couple of the updates. The first thing is in their funnels. Now when a potential customer walks through your funnels and sees your sequence of offers, if someone decides to say no to the core main offering, they can get automatically directed to a downsell, a smaller offering which they might say yes to. And then you've got order bumps and upsells, which mean that you can add a single checkbox at the checkout that can really easily add $20 or even $30 onto what they've already bought. So if you're building something creative alongside the rest of your life, or perhaps thinking of getting started and building a business around it and making some money online, you can try Stan with a 30-day Creator Pro trial at the link in the description down below. Now let's get back into the video. So I read this book in my early mid-20s. I think I was around 23 when I read it, just like finishing up medical school. And it completely changed the way that I was thinking about things. And this book, The Defining Decade by Meg Jay, gets some mixed reviews because some people love it because, like me, it completely changed their perspective on things. But some people are also like, oh, like, what if you're in your 30s? Are you saying that I've already defined my life in my 20s and boo-hoo, like, I can't do anything now? Like, are you saying that, oh, everything's so serious in your 20s? And so the takeaway from this book that I actually think is really positive is that every year counts, and we can choose to make it count. We can choose to make it meaningful. We can choose to use that time to build towards the person that we want to become. And instead of viewing our 20s as time just to be passed and then real life starts when we're 30, actually viewing it as a gift. This is 10 years of your life that you can choose to spend however you want. You can choose to invest however you want. You can choose to enjoy it. You can choose to level yourself up. You can choose to have experiences. You can choose to build foundations. You can choose to experiment and try new things and try out different versions of yourself. One thing I've noticed getting into my later 20s is I have noticed myself aging. Let's say the crinkles around my eyes or the skin around my eyes getting softer, the shape of my face changing, especially through like pregnancy and having a baby. But even before that, the smile lines around my mouth deepening. More sunspots and freckles have been appearing on my face, even though I try to be diligent with my SPF every day. And unfortunately for women, a lot of the standards around beauty are in terms of looking younger, even though that's actually kind of a dumb goal and unattainable. It's often the goal that we set for ourselves inadvertently. We're told over and over again that a lot of our value lies in our beauty, in the way that we look, in the way that we dress, in how young our skin is, in how nice our hair is, how well done our nails are. And part of me really resents that this is the case, but also believes it's true as well, because that is the society that we are in. That is how women are often judged and how our value is often judged. I'm gonna turn 30 in a few months, which is crazy. Every year I have felt more myself. Every year I have felt more secure in myself. I have learned new things. I've grown, I've matured, I've developed, and I have actually enjoyed my life, and I've enjoyed being me more and more every single year. Anxieties just fall away, almost seemingly like naturally, and I think the confidence with which I hold myself has just leveled up every single year of my life. And yet there's this bittersweet sadness around thinking, oh, I noticed aging in myself, and I know this is a natural process, and I want to embrace it, because in a way, I wish I could view aging as beautiful. Aging is beautiful. It means I have survived another year, I have thrived another year, hopefully, and learned new things, because the only people who don't age are the people who aren't here anymore. Everybody who is here, living, breathing, doing things, is aging. And so there's part of me that wishes, as a society, we celebrated the look of an aged woman, the look of a crone, with like all the wrinkles in her face, the smile lines, everything that she has been through, all the sun rays that she has soaked up in the sunspots in her skin, all the collagen that has degraded over time as she's rubbed her face while she like cuddles her baby. And so even with all this pressure to look young, to stay beautiful, I actually wouldn't trade any of the things that I have learned, or the person that I've become, the confidence I've gained, the self-assurance, the feeling of just being settled in myself. I wouldn't trade a single ounce of it to go back to looking like my 21-year-old self. There's something there around like, oh, a fear of, oh, will my value decrease as I get older as a woman? But I actually feel more valuable than ever in a strange way because of the person that I've become, the person that I've grown into, mostly because of my mind, my experiences, not so much of the things on the outside. And so while I do think that looks matter, going through my 20s has really reminded me that they aren't everything, and there are things that I would not trade to look younger. I'm still figuring out a lot, and there's a lot that I haven't figured out yet, and so it's easy to see people on YouTube talking as if they've figured out everything. I really haven't. I'm just sharing as I go along, as I'm figuring it out in real time. But these are the things that I think I've figured out in my 20s so far, and so I hope that's been interesting or useful in some way. And so instead of giving you 2 action points like I usually do in a normal video, I'd like to do something a bit different this time. Pick the 2 lessons from this video that felt the most true or resonant or mindset shifting for you. Maybe they could be the ones that surprised you, made you pause, or things that you've maybe been avoiding or feel kind of uncomfortable and you don't really like. And so take some time to just reflect on them, maybe write them down somewhere, and think about how they show up in your own life. This video was a slightly different format to what I usually do. Let me know what you thought of it down below. And if you enjoyed this video, I think you might like this video over here where I walk through my favorite books so far for each major era of my life, which changed my mindset and change my trajectory. Feel free to subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this, and take care of yourself, and remember that the journey is the destination. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!